So hello and welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn on transversal skills. We're very pleased that you've decided to join us for this event. Today my name is Helena Kovacs. I'm part of a research team at Learn, and I'm joined by Kathryn Hess, the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs, and Julien Delisle from Discovery Learning Labs. Today's session has basically three parts. In the first part, we will have Kathryn talk about the institutional efforts of her working group on transversal skills, learning and teaching at EPFL. This will be followed by attempts to map transversal skills with the existing skill set that was done, work that was done collaboratively between DLL Discovery Learning Laboratories, Julien, Delisle, CAP, and Learn. And in the third part, we will be curious to hear your reactions and your thoughts on the content we've presented, and overall to have some discussion with you. Before giving the word to Kathryn, I just wanted to kind of set up the play field with what do we mean by transversal skills. Most of you have heard or worked with transversal skills, but basically to set the playing field for this session, when we talk about transversal skills, we think about career competences that are not specific to a particular job. They're not defined by academic discipline or area of knowledge. They can be used from task to task or from work to work setting. Hence, they can be transferred, and that is the part of how they're named. We call them also professional skills because we see them as very important in engineering profession, especially in tackling some complexities that the engineering profession demands. We often avoid using the word soft skills because it adds a bit of a falsity in how it sounds in comparison to hard skills. Soft meaning may be less important, and we see that they're important because often professional engineers work in team where they need to know how to respectfully approach team players, how to work interdisciplinary, how to address environmental and social crisis. And soft also might seem that it's easier for us to teach them, whereas sometimes it's quite difficult to teach, especially complex skills like ethical or thinking or sustainable critical thinking and so on. So this was just to give a little bit of a definition. Now I give the virtual floor to Kathryn to tell us a little bit about what the working group has been working on in the last couple of months. Kathryn? We cannot.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Okay, thank you very much, Helena, for the invitation. Can we go back to the presentation?
Yes.
There we go.
Oh, well.
Okay, thank you. So I thought I would start by giving a little bit of history of this initiative. So I just started in this role as Associate Vice President at the beginning of January, at the same time that Jan Hesthaven started as Provost, and he's my direct boss in this role. And for Jan, it's been a priority from day one in his role as Provost to work on better integrating transversal skills into the education of all of our students at EPFL. And so I took on the challenge of developing this initiative together with my deputy, Daniel Chouard. Then we had a COPIL that's first met in May of this year, sort of mapping out what needed to be done, what were the priorities and so on. And then we launched a working group, particularly thinking about the contents of transversal skills courses at EPFL back in June. So we've been working since then. And our goal is really not to come up with something that is top down, where the direction of the EPFL is going to say, this is what we need to do, and this is how you're going to do it, but more to identify what is already being done at EPFL in order to better coordinate, to figure out what needs are still not being met in terms of teaching, create better visibility for existing projects that are teaching transversal skills at EPFL. And we wanted to figure out how to do this in a way that we don't add to the already very heavy workload of the students. So figure out how best to integrate the teaching of these transversal skills into their own disciplinary courses to as great an extent as possible. So, you know, it just mentioned that the COPIL for this project includes members from the VPT. So Gisou van der Hout is participating, VPI with Ursula Oesterle, because the VPI is taking a lot of initiatives along these lines. And both Pierre Dillenbourg, the AVP for Education, and Luisa Lambertini, the AVP for Postgraduate Education, participate in the COPIL that is managing this project overall. So, as mentioned on this slide, our vision is really, we want all of our graduates to have the possibility to acquire these important transversal skills so that, you know, when they graduate from EPFL, they can sort of hit the ground running as architects, scientists, and engineers, and really be competent already to cooperate in big projects, transdisciplinary projects, and everything, have all these skills that they're really ready to go. And so, as I said, our goal is really to set up a framework in which we can integrate all of the existing efforts, better coordinate them, and then fill in the gaps that still exist. So in the process of preparing to start to work on this project, we looked at feedback that was coming from supervisors of the internship projects that all of our engineering students do as master's students, looked at a survey of the alumni, which made it clear that there was a need that they expressed for learning more about project management, for example. And we also looked at what was being done at the ETH in Zurich and so on. So consequences, there are interesting consequences for EPFL in this context. I mean, I think it's better for our students, but it's also better for EPFL because it can consolidate our reputation as a highly innovative technical university that's really responsive to both society and industry in terms of the sort of competences that our graduates will have. So if I can ask you to go to the next slide, Helena. Right, so as I said, in June, there was a working group that started working on sort of what the contents should be of transversal skills courses that are taught at EPFL. So when what's on this slide here is the sort of milestones that I set back in June for what we wanted to do. And the idea was really to sort of review and revise and then prioritize the list of relevant skills that should be taught to our graduates. And then what is written there by themes is sort of like, if you want to teach these transversal skills, it's not just I'm going to teach a course on how to prepare a poster. I'm not going to teach a course on just time management or something like that, but in a context. So these themes with the idea of how can you integrate the teaching of these transversal skills into an appropriate context. And that's what I called themes at the beginning, in which eventually became the notion of what we called a vector, as a vector of transmission of these different skills. That's a terminology due to Véronique Michaud, in fact. So the working group consisted of myself, Roland Tormé, Jeroen van Hoenen for the postgraduate education, who has since been replaced by Philippe Maire, the new deputy to Luisa Lambertini, Simone Zaremba from the Language Center, Francesca Nicoletti, member of Agipoli, Karl Bormann, who are representing Polydoc for the PhD students, Véronique Michaud as the vice dean for teaching from STI, Anja Skrivovic, so we had a director of one of the doctoral programs as well. Kathryn Hess from the Career Center, which also offers a lot of important courses for students' transversal skills, and Mathilde Banès from the library, which again also offers a range of courses for students to learn certain specific transversal skills. So really had participation from across a wide range at EPFL. So yes, you can go to the next slide, that's fine. Okay, so the way we started trying to analyze the problem was in sort of a matrix manner. I'm a mathematician, so I like to sort of organize things in familiar frameworks. And the idea was to think about, you know, we have a bunch of skills. So first I had an in-depth discussion with Roland and Simone about what were considered to be the transversal skills that were important to our students, which we sort of grouped into different skills categories. You'll see examples of this in a moment. And then within each skill category, there were very specific skills that were considered. So there was already, as you will see later, and Helena's part of the presentation, a list of competencies also divided into different groups that are provided by the CTI, which is one of the organizations that has to accredit EPFL. But we decided we would revisit it really with from the perspective of, well, who we are at EPFL and what we think is important. So we came up first with this list of skills in these different groups, and then figured out, okay, what could be the vectors of transmission of these different skills, and came up with a list of those possible vectors. So first we did sort of a global analysis to figure out what was important, what were priorities, and then shortly realized that this was sort of an impossible task if we didn't divide things by educational level. So we decided, we separated it then in thinking about what is important for master's students, what's important and relevant for bachelor students, and for master's students, then for PhD students. And there the input from the student representatives played an important role, to hear from them about what they thought was important as well. So we had 6 different categories of skills and 4 or 5 skills in each category. So what you're going to see in the next 3 slides are what our conclusions were after 2 or 3 months of discussion and thinking about things and brainstorming among us. So if you can go to the next slide, Helena. So here we see what our consensus was on the priorities at the level of the bachelor. So in the box on the left, you see the different vectors that we consider for transmitting these different skills. So they can be within the framework of language courses. So Simone Zerembe did a detailed analysis of the sorts of courses that are taught in the Language Center, and figure out, really explicitly which transversal skills are taught in the framework of those courses. So not surprisingly, one thing you could find that's taught in a language course is how to give an oral presentation, or how to write a report. They have courses on academic writing or listening actively as well. And then other vectors: sustainability, project management, social and cognitive neuroscience, meaning it's not really neuroscience as such, but it's more like certain competencies that are related to interpersonal relationships usually. Ethics, which in our original prioritizing, I think we underestimated. We've had further discussions with Roland, who made it clear that we can think about ethics in a more broad way as a really excellent vector for transmitting a lot of these skills, because they're often engineering type problems where there are hidden ethical dilemmas that is really important to bring to the surface. And then multicultural and intercultural studies, because our students will be are already at EPFL, but even and afterwards will be led to work in multicultural, intercultural groups. So that was the list of vectors. And then we have the different skills groups that were considered to be important. So they're in order of the importance that we considered they had: communication skills, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, organizational skills, and enterprise skills. And not surprisingly, enterprise skills are maybe the least important among these for bachelor students. Although they should already be starting to think about this in preparation for moving on to the master level. And so you see in order under each group of skills, you see the specific skills that we consider to be important, also ordered more or less, ordered in the way we consider them to be important. And then there's this cross-matching between the different vectors of transmission and the skills themselves. So this was an exercise that we carried out for each of the 3 levels of education. We can just look briefly at the next couple of slides for the master. And you see that here, the order is different. And in fact, at the master level, we see that there are a lot more skills that were considered to be important and relevant. Also, we see a beginning of the 6th category, which didn't come up at the bachelor level, of research skills, with the particular case of understanding research ethics. But we have and then also the order of importance of the vectors has changed. The most important vector for the bachelor students was considered to be language courses, but here project management comes to the fore and is going to remain very important next level as well. And you see that in a course on project management, we could integrate many of these specific skills from a wide range of the different skills areas. And then finally, for the PhD, it's again a more restricted list, which we consider to be high priority for the PhD students. And again, with a strong emphasis on communication skills. And so there are other specific skills that are not mentioned on this list that we're not completely discrediting, but we wanted to have, we cannot do everything. So we wanted to figure out what priorities were, what we should implement first, or not necessarily for us to implement, but when we do our survey of what is going on in EPFL, to say, there's a gap that we need to fill because we identified that as a high priority skill. So that's, and I think that these slides will be available to everyone, if I'm not mistaken, Helena. And so you will have time to look through this yourself, and feel very welcome to write to me with comments or suggestions or feedback on the priorities that the working group has come up with. So what we're working on right now is saying, okay, we've come up with our list of priorities for both the specific skills and the vectors by which we would like to transmit these skills. But then we need to think much more concretely about how we actually teach the skills. So one thing I've been doing over the last month or so is to go to meet people on Zoom mostly, to talk about the different pilot projects that they have on campus, the different ways that these transversal skills are already taught on campus. So among the initiatives that are going on. So as I said, there's a lot that's already taught in the context of the language courses, and even more sort of specific language courses for academic writing and so on. But there's also the Language Center has little so courses in academic writing and oral presentation integrated into courses, for example, in the mechanical engineering and materials sections and so on. So that's one model of how you can sort of include transversal skills into existing courses. And we're figuring out, or they're figuring out, how one can actually do it in such a way that it's natural for the students to obtain credits for the work they do that's specifically related to communication skills. So there are other initiatives from professors within, again, particularly mechanical engineering, microtechnique, where they specifically teach small modules, an extra hour or two to teach some basic project management, to take some basic risk analysis, things like that into their courses, where this is more project-based learning, and the students are already, they directly are applying those skills that they learn in these project-based classes. And so I talked with a couple of professors who could do a comparison between courses in which they were doing project-based learning with or without explicit learning of transversal skills. And they could see that the students acquired the transversal skills when they were taught explicitly in the context of the course, then made immediately relevant by application to the specific projects. So there are other options there also within the SHS program. There's their new TILT program, where they have again, specific modules on transversal skills that are integrated into these courses that are interdisciplinary between EPFL and UNIL, or that's the hope in any case. There's another project with the CDM and Lego 3T Play, which I have not yet had a chance to talk about, but I'm looking forward to hearing about, using tangibles to increase transversal skills learning. You can also, within the context of make projects, in the discussion recently with Julien Delisle, where we talked about how there's already some integration of learning transversal skills in the context of MACE projects. It'd be nice to do a lot more and more explicitly. So also, as I said, the VPI offers various workshops and small courses within their Launchpad effort for young entrepreneurs. The Career Center that also offers modules for such courses, the library, and so on. So there's new initiatives for doctoral students as well that I mustn't forget, also within the excellence program for doctoral students and so on. So there are a whole lot of initiatives. We're trying to get a good overview. And then once we've done that mapping, then we can figure out, okay, how can we coordinate and how can we fill in the gaps that are there? And so the next slide, please.
I think
or was that my last slide?
I think
okay, but then okay, then that's fine. So, so I just wanted to say that some of the conclusions to which I've come after these discussions with people who have various initiatives, which I am delighted to see. It's been really enriching and exciting to talk to people about the different things that they're doing, is the real importance of teaching these transversal skills explicitly in the context of disciplinary courses and making them immediately relevant so that the students see, how they can use them. And then in the discussion I had with Julien, and not only with him, but with others as well, there's a clear need for sort of a more homogeneous structure and management of the teaching of transversal skills, coordination, and making things more available. And most of the examples I saw there were the teaching of the transversal skills also in the context of the ENAC week, where they weren't even actually taught explicitly, is there's a problem of scaling it up and really including a substantial portion of teaching of transversal skills in these contexts, maybe over several courses or something like that. So there are really a lot of questions about how precisely we're going to go about doing this integration. Then that also begs the question of how can you evaluate the students' acquisition of these skills, and how can you ensure that they get some sort of recompense for their efforts. So we talked about either including them as courses where they can actually get credits for it, or if it's something where they can't get credits, and they should have some sort of portfolio, for example, that says this student has acquired these particular skills, and that would be some sort of recompense for all the effort they would have made to acquire those skills. So that's it for me. This is still very much a work in progress, and I'm really happy to get any feedback. So thank you, Helena, for giving me a chance to present this.
Thank you, Kathryn. And it's a good way to transition into the second part of this Lunch and Learn, where basically we want to say what we know, at least at an institutional level, what we know about teaching or having transversal skills integrated into our curriculum, both formal and non-formal. And this is where it connects to our work on heat maps and qualitative mapping of extracurricular offers of courses and stuff like that. So with some 2 years ago, roughly, collaboration between CAP, DLL, and LEARN made an attempt to map transversal skills through the only way that we could at that point, without going individually from one teacher to another, or surveying, or having yet another survey sent to all teachers. So we used course descriptions, or fiche de cours, to gain an idea how transversal skills are integrated into the written curriculum of EPFL. We asked as academia, we asked for course descriptions of that academic year, which corresponded to 929 course descriptions. And then Julien had very skillfully developed a MATLAB user interface, which helped us filter the raw data and have a visual presentation of this, because otherwise it would have been large tables with lots of numbers, and it was not very pleasing to the eye. Most of people who teach at EPFL know that course documents are created with several demands that you need to fulfill. We focused on parts which ask for transversal skills, course type, whether it's obligatory, optional, time in semester, number of students, and section where it is taught. Just as a reminder, in the fiche de cours, or the course documents, transversal skills are made as a list of 35 skill statements, which are categorized in five skill families, as you can see in this picture, and they are made accessible to teachers to drag and drop into their course documents. So we used it was easy for us to then uniformly see how these skills are represented in the course documents. Et voila, first heat map that we generated was of the number of courses across all the sections. So this is across the entire EPFL curriculum. In the lines here, we can see that each line corresponds to one skill or one skill statement, and they are categorized again within the 5 skill categories, 5 skill families. The columns correspond to the educational level, so BA1 to MA4. So BA1, first semester of bachelor, second semester of bachelor, and all the way to the last semester of master course. In this map, we can see that there's an evident gap between master and bachelor, or how skills are represented overall in bachelor and master. However, we generated another map that corresponds to student number, and this is again representative of all sections, so it's the full institution. And this actually gives us a slightly different picture. And why this is so different than the previous one is because bachelor courses are more numerous. So one course can have 25 or more, 250 or more students, whereas master courses are usually a little bit less numerous. So they have maybe 5 or so. So basically there's more courses in the master level, but with fewer students. And in bachelor level, there are more students, but fewer courses. We used this as a better representation of for our analysis. And we can see in, for instance, this map, we can see that there are some skills that are very well represented throughout curriculum. So students can use a work methodology appropriate to the task. It's well represented throughout their full curriculum from BA1 to MA4. However, we also see some cold areas in how skills are represented throughout the curriculum. For instance, literature review is a little bit cold. Working in society in general, so anything that reflects on ethical, environmental responsibility and so on. Taking responsibility for health and safety, chairing a meeting, as well as most skills in working groups and in organizations, for instance, resolving conflict, negotiating effectively, and so on. This work has been a good indication on the course documents. So we cannot say that whether this is taught or not, and we cannot also say that skills are not taught at courses, because maybe they are taught but not in the written curriculum. So this is a little bit of a limitation of our working method, which includes only the course documents and not actually talking to teachers. Beyond this, we knew that students in the course of their education at EPFL also enroll in many extracurricular activities. They're very active. So we wanted also to complement that with mapping transversal skills outside of the written official curriculum. But because usually units that offer courses don't use a unified list of skills, we approached this with qualitative interviews and data from units listed in this slide. What we can see in the diagram is how these units sometimes collaborate in their offers. And what is more significant is the blue tags are those courses that are integrated in the curriculum and offer ECTS, offer credits to the students. Yellow is those that are integrated but don't offer credits. And green and orange are those that are not integrated into the curriculum, and orange meaning they don't even have ECTS for students. What we can already see is that most of these activities, so yellow and orange, they don't offer any ECTS. As such, they need to compete with the official curriculum meaning that the offer that comes as extracurricular activities often is perhaps extra to the workload, which is just normal in a student educational lifetime, but still, we wanted to map this as well. Some of the skills that we've spotted in extracurricular activities were similar to those that are listed in the map of 32. But there were also some very important ones as self-care or employability skills that are, as said, very important for professionals today, but not often represented in the official curriculum. So we just wanted to say that there is a bunch of skills that are still offered outside of what is taught in the courses. So our students do have some coverage of these skills as well. Now, I think we've talked for a while. We presented a lot of things here. And perhaps this is maybe a good moment where, unless there are really crucial clarifying questions, we would invite you to do a little bit of a discussion among yourselves. The activity would be to join a group of your choice, and I will soon open the breakout rooms. And then I will share also a list of skills that Kathryn has talked about. So the list that was shared by Kathryn, and also the list of existing skills. And in the three groups, you can discuss this list from the perspective of what do you think are the most important transversal skills, where do you think they can be taught, or who you should think should teach these skills. The document that I will share in a moment is open document, only prepared for this purpose. So please put your main points there with comments or with different color, and we can then raise them at the end of this event. Before opening the groups and going into groups, Pierre-André, you raised your hand. Would you like to?
Yeah, I have a comment about the heat map. Mm-hmm. I'm really not convinced that the transversal skills are really written by the teachers and by the responsible into the fiche de cours. I'm really quite critical about starting from the list of learning outcome included in the fiche de cours. Because, for example, with the transversal skills, most of these transversal skills are part of project, lab, and TPs, for example. And that's just the case where many profs are involved. And at the end, that's the section responsible that say, okay, I have a semester project, and semester project is a list of professors, and then all the skills are just not written. And I see a lot of fiche de cours without any skills in projects. But this is not because they are not taught, it's just because they are not registered in the fiche de cours. Yes. So that, of course, at the end, your map do not correspond to reality.
Exactly, and that is a huge limitation of our work, that we acknowledge that the written curriculum is often not corresponding to the taught curriculum or the learned curriculum. So we have not had the chance to do a survey of the teachers and what teachers actually teach in the courses. And we have not surveyed the students or the alumni of what they learn in the courses. So this is just to say that in the written curriculum, this is what we offer as a written, as what we can, what we put in our written curriculum. Written curriculum, however, is quite important for the accreditation process.
We have a problem. I agree. We have a problem with the accreditation, because in the accreditation they will see the fiche de cours, but that's not the problem of who will teach and so on, because many things are already taught.
Absolutely. So yes, that is a good point, and that we have acknowledged through our work. thank you for that. Any other comments or any other general points? And if not, the groups are already, the breakout rooms are open. Please really join whichever group. So the first group is about which transversal skills you feel are the important ones to be taught. The second group is at what level they should be taught. And the third group, and this is a rough estimation, the third group is who should teach them. And you have the document, which I see already many people have opened. So feel free to comment there, to have some points that you want to raise and so on.